Okay, so I'm going to wrap up section 4.1, which was titled Sexual Reproduction and Meiosis. And so we talked about what sexual reproduction is, how female sex cells is called an egg, a male sex cell is a sperm. They meet in the process of fertilization to form a zygote. That zygote will go through multiple rounds of mitosis, and then those cells will differentiate to become different types of cells, which will eventually form the organism. And then we spent some time discussing the two types of cells inside of us, how we have body cells and sex cells. And body cells are diploid, which means they have the full set or the full correct number of chromosomes. So humans, we have 46 chromosomes. That means every type of body cell that's in you has 46 chromosomes. Now, sex cells have half the number of that. So half of 46 is 23. That means a sperm cell has 23 chromosomes and an egg cell has 23 chromosomes. And the purpose of that is to maintain the correct number of chromosomes. Because if a zygote has too many or too few, it may develop a genetic disorder. It may not develop properly. And so that's, we spent a lot of times just talking about chromosomes and chromosome numbers. So different species have like a different number of chromosomes. So, a fern is 1,260, fruit fly is 8. The number of chromosome has nothing to do with how complex the organism is, all right? It has nothing to do with intelligence or how smart the animal is. Just know that humans, we have 46 chromosomes in our body cells, and in our sex cells, we have half the number, which is 23. So the purpose of that is, well, geez, if a sperm cell had 46 and an egg cell had 46 and they met and fused in the process of fertilization, we'd end up with a egg or a zygote with 92 chromosomes. And that's way too many chromosomes. Excuse me. So we are going to talk about the process of how do sex cells get half the number of chromosomes. Okay, so haploid cells are just sex cells. They are the result of a process called meiosis. Now we're going to jump into meiosis. Skip ahead here. Okay. So hopefully by the end of today's lecture, we'll talk about the phases of meiosis and what happens in each phase, and then why is meiosis important. So meiosis sounds like mitosis, okay, but they are different. You'll see some similarities, but some big differences between the two. Meiosis involves 2 rounds of division. Okay, the nucleus and the cytoplasm will literally go through 2 rounds of division, and these divisions are known as meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. And the end result of meiosis is you're going to end up with 4 haploid cells, and these cells are not genetically identical like they are in mitosis. They are genetically distinct or different from each other. So during the interphase, our reproductive cell grows and replicates its chromosomes, kind of like what it does in mitosis. So we end up with, X's. It's going to replicate, copy itself, and this is still, a homologous chromosome. Maybe this chromosome came from dad and this chromosome came from mom. There's my homologous chromosome. This is a chromosome. What makes up a chromosome? Oh, in this case, we got 2 sister chromatids. But during interphase, the cell will grow and duplicate its chromosome. Then it will go through the first round of meiosis. Each pair of the duplicated homologous chromosome will separate from each other. So here you can see that they are paired up, just like, here, paired up, just like we discussed in yesterday's lecture. Homologous chromosomes are paired up. And at meiosis 1, they will separate from each other. Okay? And then meiosis 2, that chromosome will split into sister chromatids. So there's a brief summary of the 2 rounds of divisions right there. So I'm going to break it down now. We're going to go through each phase of meiosis. So meiosis 1, here is my cell. Okay, it starts off as diploid, and you can see that we're going to have homologous chromosomes here and homologous chromosomes there. And they get paired up, and then they are pulled away from each other, and then I end up with 2 cells. And then it will go through a second round of division, where these 2 cells, the chromosomes will line up in the middle, and then they will separate. That chromosome will be pulled apart, so now I end up with the sister chromatids, and I end up with 4 cells. So in prophase 1 of meiosis 1, the nuclear membrane breaks down, and the chromosomes condense and form homologous pairs. Sounds very similar to mitosis. In prophase, the nuclear membrane breaks down, chromosomes condense, form in those X's, right? So very similar, but now we have something called homologous pairs. Then metaphase 1, middle, those homologous chromosomes line up in the center of the cell. Then we enter anaphase 1. The homologous chromosomes separate and are pulled to opposite ends of the cell. So now our homologous pairs are pulled apart. And then finally, telophase 1, the nuclear membrane forms, and then it will go through cytokinesis, which is not listed in your book, but the cytoplasm does divide, and we end up with 2 daughter cells. So that's meiosis 1. So now those 2 daughter cells are going to go through another round of division. We don't have homologous chromosomes, and we also don't have any DNA replication. So after meiosis 1, the 2 cells that form will go through a second round of division. It's called meiosis 2. And here, our sister chromatids are going to separate. In meiosis 1, it was the homologous chromosomes separate. Here, it's the sister chromatids separate, and we end up with 4 haploid cells. So in prophase 2, the nuclear membrane breaks down. In metaphase 2, they line up in the center of the cell. In anaphase, they get pulled away, the sister chromatids separate. And then in telophase 2, the nuclear membrane forms and the cytoplasm divides. Okay, now I'm going to post on the assignment the meiosis square dance. So please watch it. It is kind of long and it is kind of ridiculous. The first time through, you may not understand what the words are saying, but then the second time they show it, where it says one more time, they actually print or put the lyrics at the bottom, and I think it's just brilliant. I watched the video when I was a sophomore way back, way back, and it's just something that has always stuck with me. So I just kind of torture everyone with it. So. Okay, so the importance of meiosis is obviously to maintain the correct diploid number when those sex cells join. So those sex cells have half the number of chromosomes, and then when they fuse, we end up with an organism with the correct number. Another very important reason why meiosis occurs, it creates something called genetic variation, genetic diversity. This is why you don't look exactly like your siblings, okay, if you have siblings, or exactly like your parents. There's just so much factors, things that occur in meiosis that make the organism unique. Okay, so how do mitosis and meiosis differ? Okay, you can't say one has a T in it and one doesn't, okay? Please don't write that. During mitosis and cell division, the body cell goes through one round of division. It divides once, and the end result is 2 identical cells. During meiosis, a reproductive cell and its nucleus go through 2 rounds of division. It will divide twice. As a result, you get 4 genetically different haploid cells. So they have half the number of DNA, they're genetically different, they're not clones, and 2 rounds of division. Lots of differences here. So I don't know if you have a table in your notes, but just to recap between meiosis and mitosis, the parent cell, both parent cells start off as diploid. But the type of parent cell might be different. We have a reproductive cell here and a body cell. Number of divisions, 2 for meiosis, 1 for mitosis. Number of daughter cells produced, we end up with 4. Mitosis, we end up with 2. In meiosis, the chromosome number is haploid, or half. So in humans, it would be 23. And then in mitosis, it's diploid. So it'd be 46 in humans. And the function is for meiosis to form sex cells. In mitosis, lots of different functions. Could be for growth, cell repair, and if you are a unicellular organism, then yes, then it would be, for reproduction. Now I want to go back to this picture right here. So these 4 cells, what do they end up as? Well, if you are male, all 4 of these cells will develop into sperm. Okay, males produce a lot of sperm. If you are female, one of these 4 cells will become the egg. So what happens is, it's kind of complex and it's kind of beyond life science 7 here, but one of them will actually kind of absorb all the other egg cells. We might have some polar bodies that occur, or they just don't get used, but one of them becomes the egg cell. And that's why the egg is so much larger than the sperm. I believe in section 1, part 1 here, here's a picture of an egg cell compared to a sperm cell. Big difference, okay? All right, so I think that wraps up 4.1, section 1. You're gonna get an assignment, I believe it's the meiosis packet, and you'll get today and all of tomorrow to work on it.